This is your guide to the backstory of Medea, similar to what we did with Agamemnon. Just a bit of backstory, a little bit of history, so that you can comprehend what's happening in the play. I think you'll find that Medea is significantly easier to read compared to Agamemnon, and there's also some extremely eerie similarities between some of the characters that you'll encounter in this play. Once again, I want to emphasize to sort of suspend your disbelief. A lot of what I am going to present to you is sort of fantasy mixed with reality. So, like I mentioned during the Agamemnon unit, we read fiction and we appreciate it for what it is. Same thing here. What we're about to talk about is obviously quite fantasy-based for certain elements, but bear with it and try to appreciate it for what it is. So without further ado, let's give some backstory to Medea and why Medea is in the situation that she is. In order to understand a bit of the backstory, Medea's father was King Aeetes, and he was the owner of the mystical Golden Fleece. There's a picture of it in front of you right now. The Golden Fleece was essentially a sheepskin that was made of gold. So you can see why someone would want this. Extremely valuable. Obviously something extremely rare. Sheep don't walk around made out of solid gold every day. And the king owned this. Now, because of that, he was put into several situations, which you will hear about momentarily. But it's important to know that King Aeetes had the Golden Fleece before we go any further. So, let's talk about Medea. Medea is the protagonist that you will be meeting in the play you'll be reading, obviously self-titled. She was one of the daughters of the king, and she was well known as being a great sorceress. Everyone kind of knew throughout the land that Medea had a particularly excellent skill set dealing with potions. You can see this really sort of grotesque picture in front of you. She's pouring something into a vat. Looks like there's blood coming out. That comes into play in a little bit, but Medea, very well known as being a sorceress, having great magical powers. Jason is a warrior, and he is sent to King Aeetes' kingdom, okay, to try to win over the Golden Fleece. He wants this thing because obviously it's valuable, it's a symbol of prestige, and many great warriors wanted to sort of steal this from the king. Well, the king is not going to put up with that. Obviously, he's not just going to give the fleece away, so he sets Jason on a series of completely impossible tasks in order for him to try to get this fleece. The picture you see here is actually quite interesting. It's a reproduction of the ship that Jason would have come to the island on. You can see we refer to it as the Argo, and you'll hear them talk about the Argo in the play quite a bit. It's a nice representation of what a ship at the time period would look like. Really kind of a cool image there. So Jason, obviously on the island now, the king is putting him up to a series of impossible tasks in order for him to obtain this Golden Fleece. There's a bit of a problem, though. Medea meets Jason and falls head over heels in love with him, and essentially strikes a bargain and says, look, if you, sort of reflect this affection that I have for you, if you fall in love with me, I will do whatever I need to do to help you get this Golden Fleece and get you off of this island safely. So Jason agrees, and Medea starts to hatch out her plan. There's a bit of a quick escape. Jason and Medea have to flee quickly on the Argo because they've essentially taken the Golden Fleece, right? Medea brings her brother along on the ship very intentionally. She has a plan, unfortunately for her brother, the whole reason that he's on this ship. So they're on the Argo, and the king's army is coming quickly towards them. So in order to sort of get a little bit of head time, what Medea does is she proceeds to kill her brother and chop him into little bits, little pieces. If you look very closely at the picture, on the right-hand side, you'll see like a torso hanging off of the ship on the right. That's Medea's brother. She chopped him off. And if you look really closely on the waves, you can see a couple legs, you can see an arm. The whole reason Medea does this is because tradition has it that the body can't really move on to the next world unless it's all together in one piece. So the king's army, being very well aware that the body would be kind of stuck, has to stop and pick up all the pieces. So Medea and Jason are able to escape. So at this point already, Medea has betrayed her father and gone with Jason, but then on top of it has killed her brother, and literally, in a sort of barbarous, murderous fashion, chopped him up into bits. Nevertheless, they escape. So Jason arrives back home and is quite triumphant, and his father, Jason's father, used to be the king of his homeland, alright, Iolcus. He used to be the king, and he is no longer. Medea meets Jason's father, and he's aging quite quickly. Medea is able to produce a potion to restore his youth. So it's exactly what she does. The way the potion works, and this is important to realize in a moment, is Medea has to cut Jason's father's throat, drain his blood, and then replace it with this magic potion, which then in turn restores Jason's father's youth. Okay? The king, the current king of Jason's homeland, Pelles, is so impressed by this magic that Medea sees a bit of an opportunity. She goes to the king and says, look, I will perform this for you without a problem. So what she does is she takes the current king, gets his daughters to come help in the ritual, has his daughters cut his throat to drain his blood, and what Medea does is refuse to put the potion in. So in essence, Medea uses the king's daughters to kill the king, right? And essentially, Medea and Jason have to flee pretty quickly, because everyone knows Medea is really the one responsible for this. So they now have to leave Jason's homeland. They have to exile quickly, or people will get revenge. This is where the play begins. Jason very apparently is starting to realize that marrying Medea was not necessarily the best idea. And falling in love with her was definitely not a good idea, and then on top of it, he had 2 sons with Medea. So what he proceeds to do is they all flee the court, right? Medea, the sons, and Jason, they leave Jason's homeland, and Jason proceeds to remarry behind Medea's back. Jason marries the Princess of Corinth, and he does this for a couple different reasons. One, he's fully aware that his sons are probably going to have a pretty poor youth or life ahead of them if they're directly linked to Medea. So he sees it as a way to preserve the heritage so that his sons can have a good future. However, I think it's also very apparent that Jason is pretty through with Medea, that he, in essence, has used her over the years to essentially help him escape, to get what he wants. So the play begins right in the middle of things. Jason has married the princess, and Medea has found out. Medea is none too happy about this whatsoever, as you will see at the very beginning of this play. So there's the backstory to flesh out the beginning of Medea. I hope that it helps your reading, and I'm looking forward to discussing the play with you in the discussion threads.